10 Steps Further is a podcast designed to help you get 10 steps further along your spiritual journey. If you've been on your journey for 30 years or 30 minutes, if you believe in God, or even if you're not sure He exists, all we're trying to do is help you get 10 steps further. I'm Jonathan, and this is Jack, and we're just taking a walk. Why don't you join us? Here we go. Welcome back to 10 Steps Further. We have the voice of all women with us today, Leslie Hyatt. And I forgot what our topic is. I did read it when you sent the notes, but that's like a week ago.
Does not matter. Blah, blah, blah. So, Jonathan, I didn't know he does this, but he just tipped his hand that in the outro is going to be something about me complaining about my golf game.
Sometimes.
So
it's
just,
rare.
I didn't know he did that, so I guess listen to that at the end.
Yeah, I know everybody shuts it off as soon as that bass line comes in. They're like, oh, it's over. But every once in a while, so you might have to go back and find some episodes.
Every once in a while, you sneak in some whining.
There's something after, something after if we have it recorded before.
So let me take a moment and tell Mr. Preparation what our topic is. It's simply this. Why doesn't God just tell me where to go? Why doesn't He just tell me? Why doesn't He just tell me what to do, where to go, who to marry, what job to have? Why doesn't He just tell me? I mean, He's certainly perfectly capable of that.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So why doesn't He just tell me? And what I found out as we came in today was whoever listens to it regardless, our topic, the reason why we're doing this is for Leslie Hyatt.
It's true. Totally true.
Right.
I walked in and I was like, I don't really actually want to talk. I just want to receive counsel because I am in this.
Right.
Right in the middle of it. You probably don't want to tell people what you're going through right now, but some family decisions and trying to get care for your kids and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just trying to know what's the best thing educationally for our kids.
Yeah, it's a lot deeper than that. But and if we go into it, we could get Leslie to cry, but we're not going to do that. That's a little bit too much. I mean, our lives are made up of millions of decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Just millions of them.
Right.
So many.
Our careers, the success of our families are made by the decisions that we make, Leslie. Marriages, our reputation is made up of, how many different decisions and how we respond to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
Wouldn't it be great if we just got that direction? Okay, Proverbs 4:10. I just love these. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. I instruct you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. I don't know. There's probably people that aren't really Bible people. Gosh, who doesn't want that though?
Right.
Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
Direction. I'm going to run. I'm not going to trip up. Straight paths, man. I keep going back to this idea of straight paths. That's what God does. He takes obstacles out of our path. He makes His path obvious. Mm-hmm. That just sounds so good. And it sounds so different than the reality in which I walk.
Literally the last 5 days, every night or in the morning when I wake up and it's quiet for a moment in my bed, I'm like, God, just make it so clear. Just tell me exactly. Be so specific. I need thunder and lightning and flashes and loud noise. And then I'm like, still don't really know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like it's almost like weighing out pros and cons is the worst thing you can do to know the answer, because you can stack the results on both sides of every decision that you will ever make.
Right.
Should I marry her? Should I not marry her? Here's all the reasons why I should. Here's the reasons why I shouldn't. And you can do that for anything you're going to buy. If you want to buy something on Amazon, read the positive reviews. If you want to talk yourself out of buying it, read the negative reviews.
If you want to believe that coronavirus is real, watch CNN.
Right.
If you think it's fake, watch Fox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here's one reason why I think it's so hard for us in this particular generation that we live in, is that we are 100% over-choiced.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Psychologists tell us that with all the choices we make, we suffer from decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Inc. magazine put it like this: decision fatigue. It said that the average person makes 35,000 decisions every day.
Yeah.
What to eat for breakfast, what shirt to wear, what door to go through, where to go to lunch. A simple way to save brain power is to cut down on the number of decisions that you make. And some of the most successful people have figured this out. They simply wear the same thing each and every day. Okay? Andre Young, do you know who he is?
No.
Dr. Dre.
Okay.
He wears the same shoes every day, Nike Air Force One.
Okay.
That's a pretty decent choice.
All right. Wonder how many pairs he's got. Wonder if he bought it because they stopped making them eventually. So he
funny.
must just have bought like I'll buy 1,000 of those.
You know, I had this great pair of Adidas tennis shoes that I loved, and I just bought them at Costco. They're like $20. They're
Right.
great. But now there's a giant hole in them. I wish I'd bought 10 of them.
Right.
Barack Obama wears
Yeah.
only gray or blue suits. That's it.
Okay.
Mark Zuckerberg sports his
t-shirt.
iconic gray Brunello Cucini T-shirt.
Okay.
That still sounds like that's like
It's like
$1,000.
Italian made. Like
right. Okay. And it also meant who else does it mention?
oh, Steve Jobs.
Steve
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yep.
Can you name it?
Black long sleeve, blue jeans, and New Balance.
That's
shoes.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's kind of Jonathan's motivation. He's very
Yeah.
often he's either wearing a black T-shirt or a T-shirt that my son gave away.
But I still default to the black t-shirt. It's funny because it started with I took a trip to Russia
Right.
and, years ago, and it was like, okay, I'm going to Russia. I got to pack for like 2 weeks, and what should I? So I went to Costco and bought white T-shirts. These packs of white T-shirts. I was like,
Okay,
I'll have a
right,
clean
yep.
shirt every day. It's like $6 for a pack of them, and then that was just after I got back, I just kept wearing these white T-shirts. And then eventually I bought a black one. And I'm like, I like the black ones better. So
Right.
I
Oh, yeah.
just-
Because
if you
the
ever-
white gets so dirty.
They
Oh
get
yeah.
stained.
If you ever
Yeah.
have spaghetti, then you can't wear it for 3 days.
I think that if you have young children or toddlers or early elementary age kids, your amount of decisions that you have to make goes up like 600%.
Yeah.
With all of us in the house all the time, the amount of decisions that I have to make. Can I have this? Can I have this piece of candy? Can we watch a show? Can we do this? Can I do
Yep.
this? And I'm like, I don't know. Just do it.
Well,
I
and it's even more than that because it's not only the amount of decisions, but you have to justify them. Like,
Oh,
can I have a
yeah.
peanut butter and jelly? Not right now. Why? Now I have to know why you can't have it. Like, I
Oh
can't
my
just
gosh.
make the decision.
It's so true. Yesterday, I was like, yesterday I said to my kids, I said, you know what? I feel like I'm telling you this because I think it's the best decision and it's the healthiest for your bodies. I've told you that. That is the reason why.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to choose to do it, then go ahead because I cannot say no to you one more time. I'm so tired of saying no.
Oh
I'm
man,
making
that's
this
like
choice.
a blank check from mom. Like I can't say no to you one more time. Okay, can we have?
Yeah, right. Then they were like, fine, we won't ask for candy again.
I don't know if this relates, but it reminded me when I was a kid.
That's Jonathan's gravestone. I don't know if this relates, but it reminded me.
When I was a little kid, there were 5 of us, five total siblings. So my mom would make pancakes on Saturday, I think, every Saturday morning. But she would make them one person at a time. So she would make up pancakes, but she didn't like cold pancakes, and so she would make them for everybody one at a time. You just eat them by yourself.
Yep.
And we would always ask for the first. Can I have the first ones? Can I have the first ones? And it was driving her nuts as she's a young mom. And I remember there came a point she said, whoever asks to be the first pancakes will get the last pancakes from here on out forever.
Yeah.
From that point on, we always ask for the second.
Can't say pancake, can't say pancake.
You annoying little boy.
So I think this is where we're going to end up as far as, okay, direction. God, where do you want us to go? God, why didn't you make it so clear? Because I don't think that's God's number one thought when it comes to us, making sure that we have complete and utter clarity with all the decisions that we make. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Okay, first off, God calls us to be people of faith, right? Do you know the easiest way for me to take away your faith is to give you complete knowledge about everything? Because like it's the old saying, like your keys are always in the last place you look.
Yeah.
God, that's the stupidest thing ever, right? Why would
When
I
was
keep
the last time you
looking
had 'em?
for my keys if I have them, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Or it's brilliant. One of the two.
So the reason why once you have the keys, you have knowledge. But you have to, if you don't have the thing, you have to keep faith for it, right? So for one, he calls us to be people of faith. He's not going to tell us every single thing. He tells us to really just trust in him, that he's got it. And secondly, I really think he's more concerned with who we are than where we're going.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I remember a sermon a long time ago the statement was God is more concerned about what he's doing in you than what he's doing through you.
Right?
I remember that just being profound. Because a lot of people that make it all about what we're doing and not who we are in the process of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Agree with it.
So as you're wandering through all these things that you're going through to try to advocate for your kids, what is it that God is doing in your own soul?
Yeah, I think the part that feels so tricky is I'm such a relational person, and sometimes doing the right thing means that other people are offended or are hurt. And so that's the part that I get really tripped up on, because I love to live by, like, love everybody around you. And it feels like sometimes when you have to make a really tough decision, it means that you're, like, might be loving your family more than you love somebody else that's around you. And it just doesn't feel like you should have to choose ever.
Right.
And so that's the part that I'm like, oh, I don't know. What is he doing in me? Am I still loving everybody? Are there people I'm choosing to not love when I have to make this tough decision for my kids or my family?
Here's the thing that I would tell you, Leslie. Whoever, I don't care who's listening. It's just all about Leslie. Let's make it all about Leslie. It's
I did say I was going to have a
It's
counseling
kind of how
session.
she likes it. At the end of the day, you will be able to say, I did the brave thing. Even though maybe never, because I can guarantee you, whatever you do, there will be people that will disagree with you. It just doesn't matter. Just
I would
because
think I think most of our decisions, like our big decisions, actually will have somebody not like it. Like that's like we do a lot of things based on what.
Okay, let me ask you this
thinks.
question: when you came and told your parents you're marrying this person, or you started to date this person, were they all in?
With Sandy, yes,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
100%. Like
How about with Sandy's parents?
long
were they
before-
all in on you?
in the beginning, I think they were. It was a year into marriage that they're like, "Oh no."
So I met Jelaine, and 6 months later, I'm asking my parents to marry, and they weren't. My dad wasn't all in,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Of course, it's only been 6 months,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep.
They're probably all in on Matt.
Oh,
right?
yeah. My parents were all in on Matt.
All right, bad example.
Yeah, it's just that.
Okay, so let me
unfair
give you
advantage we have.
some other examples that kind of back this up. We, in our minds, think if God would just speak to me, give me a burning bush, lightning, thunder. Leslie literally just asked for this. If you would just do that, writing on the wall. There's all those examples are in the Bible.
Right.
There's Bible examples of him actually writing on the
Yeah.
wall.
Right.
Or a big giant pillar of fire in the sky that moves when you move. Like it's
Yes.
like, that's easy.
Yeah, I'll follow that.
I guess I'll do that.
Yeah.
That's what we think we want.
right.
Now, I'm going to give you some examples because these things actually happened.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Here's an obvious one. One day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law. He led the flock far into the wilderness, came to Sinai. There's the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, Moses said. Why isn't this bush burning up? I must go see it. Duh. Right? Then God gives him some instruction. Now go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people, Israel, out of Egypt. That's clear. Right?
A burning bush, God's voice telling you exactly
God-
what to do.
God's
okay?
voice.
So
It
far,
doesn't
so good.
count if you don't want to do the
Yeah.
thing God's telling you to do.
Right. So, Exodus 4:1, Moses protested. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you? The first time he says, but Moses protested, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? Okay, let's keep going. In verse 10, Exodus 4:10, Moses pleaded with the Lord, oh Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been, and I'm not now. Even though you've spoken to me, I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. I mean, like over and over and over and over. Finally, God says, okay, I'll send you and your brother. He can do all the talking for you, you giant whiner.
Yep. Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that. Just kidding.
I mean, my gosh. So I'm wondering, like, let's just take a moment. Is there ever a moment where you felt like God was asking you to do something, but you just came up with excuses? Man, that's too expensive. Or I don't feel called, or I'll do it next time. You know?
Or even like he talks about his, I get tongue tied, or I mean, I think at the time he's 80, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
you're like, I'm too old,
Yeah.
or I'm too young, or
Right.
everybody's got
Right.
their. I'm not educated enough. There's, I think anytime there's a step that's out of our comfort zone, we've got our list. I got a list. I feel like it's all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, you want next guy. All right, Isaiah.
Okay.
He says, I heard a voice from the Lord saying, who shall I send, and who will go for us? It's my God voice right there.
Yeah, I feel like you could do better.
I think yeah.
And I think there needs to be a little bit of an English accent. I don't know why. It's just-
So Isaiah says, here am I,
Yep.
send me. Man, that's way better than Moses,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like you said, all right, I'm in.
I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
God's voice, bang,
Yep.
I'm in. So the conversation continues. God says, go and tell this people, be ever hearing, but never understanding, be ever seeing, but never perceiving, make the heart of this people calloused, make their ears dull, close their eyes, otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Now, that's a cheery message, right? He is, in essence, saying, here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell these people to turn to God, and what are they going to do? Nothing.
Yeah. No response.
No response. It's like speaking at the park. If you haven't been to the park yet, I love the park. The park's great. But when you're a speaker and people are all spread out and they have masks on,
Right.
you essentially get nothing.
Still probably better than speaking to a camera by yourself, though.
Yeah, it is better than
true.
speaking to a camera.
It's
It's
true.
probably better than what Isaiah had to go through,
Yeah.
too. It continues. Conversation continues. Then Isaiah says, for how long?
Right.
Seems obvious. Like, that's a good question. And God answered, until the cities lie ruined and without inhabitant, until the houses are left deserted, and the fields ruined and ravaged, until the Lord has sent everyone far away, and the land is utterly forsaken. My question to you is, do you really want God to speak to you and
Right.
tell you just exactly what it is you're supposed to do?
Right. Yep.
I mean, it just continues, right? Mary, God says you're highly favored.
Right.
What does Mary endure?
A virgin birth.
Yeah,
And a lifetime of you weren't married when you got
Yeah.
pregnant in a culture that
Scandal.
was
uh-huh.
not okay with that, and then her son dies on a cross
Killed.
Yeah.
in front of her.
As a criminal. Yeah, she's right there.
Yep.
I mean, I think about that, Leslie. Like, this is like all of our worst nightmare to have our children die, but to be whipped and beaten and
Yeah.
nails on I mean,
Right.
right?
Unjustly.
Unjustly.
Yeah. It's
100% unjustly. Okay, but another one of my favorites is the Apostle Paul.
okay.
God spoke to him to go someplace. Where was that? Macedonia,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So you figure there's this, like, he's in a dream. The man from Macedonia says, go. And so he does it. And when he goes, I'm thinking, there's got to be like thousands of people waiting. And they're just going to fill churches to hear him.
Right.
Well, read your Bible, because he goes there. There's 10 women meeting by the lake, and there's no building, and there's one woman he really has a serious impact on. His name is Lydia, and that's why God sent him in a dream to go there. As soon as this situation is over, he gets beaten up and thrown out of town, left for dead. So really, Like, do you really want God to just tell you this is what you should do?
Right.
So I don't know. Any thoughts?
There's just more of them coming to my mind.
Right.
I mean, you got Jonah.
Jonah, yeah.
You
that's what I
got
was thinking.
Jeremiah was too young. I'm
Okay.
too young.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
did have Jonah. Jonah was sent to the people he didn't like.
Mm.
And his thing was the opposite. Like Isaiah was sent to Israel until their hearts were so hard and their land was desolate. And then Jonah was sent to the Ninevites who he hated. And his biggest fear was they were going to respond and God was going to be merciful. So it's like, it may be like God's going to bless your enemy could be this story.
Right. David is picked out of all of his brothers to be the next king of Israel, which means that for the next, 10, 15, 20 years,
He's on the run.
he's hunted
from the current king.
from
Yeah.
the current
Yeah.
king. Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
My favorite is maybe Ezekiel.
Okay.
All right. So Ezekiel is kind of the same call as Isaiah. Go speak to these people that are not going to respond to you. And God likes to do these object lessons.
Right.
And the object lesson he chooses for Ezekiel is, I want you to make a campfire. And I want you to lay on your side at this campfire for like months and months and months, maybe a year, right?
Right.
By the campfire. You know what God asked him to make a campfire out of? Human excrement. And he says, no, man, I can't do that. That would be unclean. So God allows him to make the fire out of cow dung.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. It's often not a pleasant calling, but yet it's always a purposeful
Sure.
calling.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. But and I guess one of the big discussions or debates around this whole thing is, does God do that? I mean, some would say that God has a very specific calling for us. But that sometimes that can hang us up on trying to figure it out. Like,
Sure.
I got to figure out my calling.
Right.
Versus, like if you see a burning bush and he's talking to you, that very likely is your calling.
Most likely.
But other than that, like it's a process of discovery, but it's also a process of decision to some extent.
Yeah.
Right?
I think what gets us tied up as far as calling God, why don't you just tell us what to do, is in our minds, we think that if God tells us what to do, it's like lottery dreams. Like everything will go in our favor. It's God will open up the doors to the American dream for us. And when we know exactly what God wants, then everything will go in our favor. And I'm just here to tell you that there is no lifestyle like that.
There's no version of everything in your favor.
There isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't. There's all kinds of versions of, well, I did this, but I realized there was no purpose in it. Or I did this, and I realized God called me to do it, and so there was a great purpose in it. But whichever one you pursue, there's going to be rough times and difficulty and death and loss and tears and all of those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is that there's a lot of things that we do that you're like, I feel like God's telling me to do this, but it doesn't mean that you see any fruit. Like all those people never saw really the fruit of what they did.
Right.
And so it sort of feels like, so I had to do this really hard thing, and for what?
Right.
Right.
So I think that that's the part that feels hard to swallow. In my mind, when I'm coming like, well, why won't God just like make it very clear? It's like when you're making one decision, like people who are like, should I take this job or should I not take this job? And it just seems like, great, just say yes or no. Like, that's it. I think like having a calling, that's like a whole another thing that can feel scary. But in terms of like decisions and making a decision, a lot of our decisions are yes or no, I feel like, or turn left or go right, whatever. And I wish those were made a little more clear.
Well, I think one of the things though, I think sometimes we kind of almost over spiritualize things, like just in a sense of when we have a theology of sovereignty where God's in control of everything. Like one of my favorite quotes is completely not biblical and people wrestle with it all the time, is like, love the Lord your God with all your heart and do whatever you want. And there really is like so much freedom in that, because you're like, can I want to please God with everything within me? Can I screw up the process if my heart in my actions is I just want to please you in what I do? I want to know you, I want to experience you, I want to see you. Can I really screw it up? And I actually think indecision is a greater issue than wrong decision in especially Christian culture. I think like if you were to say, I think God's calling me to move my family to Afghanistan for the next 30 years to do ministry, everybody would say, are you sure that's God? But if you work at the local gas station, nobody will ask you that question.
Right.
And I think that's a bigger thing is nobody's challenging us of do you not think God maybe has something for you, something different? And I one of the things that from the very beginning of this conversation is a lot of times we get trapped by looking at two decisions when there's 1,000 other options. When I moved to San Diego, I remember we were just living life and we had all these kind of ideas in our heads floating around. And when I just took some time before the Lord and I was like, Lord, what do you want me to do? What are we supposed to be doing? And I just really felt like the question I needed to answer was, what do you want to do? Like that was it. Like, what do you want to do? That was the day we made a decision with no plan in place of we're moving to San Diego. Somebody down there needs help, or we'll go see if we can find them. And if not, this was our conversation. And if not, we'll be homeless down there. That was the conversation. That was our landing spot. Was we're all in on we're just going to do this, and we talked it through. Like, what's the worst situation of us being homeless, like a worst case scenario? We're just going to embrace it and see what happens. And I think that's when it comes to decision, I think we're just like, should I go to this school or that school? Should I take this job or that job? And maybe there's other things.
Yeah. Do you think that when people get to this place where they're going through life and something bad happens, that instead of going, well, because that's life, bad things happen, or do they go, I should have done this. I wish I had done that. I regret all of this, And I guess there are times when you make a really bad decision and you're filled with regret, but really it's all of these decisions, even the decision that you do that is a mistake, is another opportunity for God to say, look, man, I didn't choose you because you were never going to make a mistake. I just chose you because you're my kid, and I'm going to walk with you through the mistake, right? Again, we're right back to that place of God is not as concerned with you making all the right decisions or making sure that your life looks great all the time. Or even where you end up. It's who you are.
Right.
What the process does to you. Feels like that's a safer space to live.
Yeah. Well, and recognizing too, I mean, there's very few decisions that you can't undo in the long term. Like, you may take some hits for a little bit, but like that was one of the things of moving to San Diego that we talked about. Like if we're homeless for a year in San Diego and like we're just desperate, and then we decided to come back to Spokane and pick up where we left off, we could get back to where we're at really easily.
Yeah.
Like we were working pretty basic jobs that we could replace, So it really oftentimes it's like, even if you make a mistake, you can learn from your mistake, and then you'll at least know.
Yeah.
And you can.
Gosh, she just thinks so different than me.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if I would do that. Right. Okay, a couple things that I want to point out. First off, we live in a world where people give off the illusion of perfection.
Right.
So that's how we get ourselves messed up, because my life isn't as good as that person's life, or it seems like that person, maybe God's blessing that person more.
Right.
And it's Facebook posts and Instagram posts and all those things that, because we don't post the horrible things that happen to us. And our goal in life, I think God's pretty clear. In this world, you will have
tribulation,
trouble, tribulation, whatever version.
Yeah.
Take heart, I've overcome the world. Right. Our goal in life is not trouble avoidance.
Right.
Our goal in life is to get that whatever happens in our life, it drives us to be closer in this relationship with God.
Yeah.
So as we close, I just want to give you a couple challenges.
Okay.
All right. As far as all this decisions that we have to make, and these are we'll call them Leslie's top 3. We're going to put on her goal list, a to-do list. Sure. Number 1, make sure that you are pouring your life into something that matters. Colossians 3:16 says, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Like, I think that's our number 1, right? Is if we find purpose,
Right.
then I think we're moving in the right direction.
Right. And that purpose, because a lot of people are going to wrestle with that one, right? I mean,
Sure,
they're going to look at their lives and be like, all I'm doing is feeding my family. That's purpose.
Yeah.
Don't get too far away from, your purpose doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It just has to be a purpose. It has to be a calling. Some people are built to do. I remember this guy, we were doing church in a school, and Gus was the custodian of the school, and we were paying to have the custodian unlock the school for us on Sunday, so he just made it his church. And he was already a Christian. I think he was going somewhere else, but he's like, there's a church in my school.
Yeah.
And Gus was always the guy, and he had so much joy in his work. Like, before we got there.
Yeah.
That adding an extra day to him was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we can find that purpose in most of what we do, but we really do need to ask that question.
I think that sometimes purpose feels like so big, like such this big thing to swallow, that your purpose is going to make huge waves of impact. And that's kind of like the point I was going back to before of sometimes I think it's hard to recognize your purpose because you never see the fruit of it. Like, I just think of, we have friends who they're like the first person in all the generations before them that are a Christian. Well, that's like that decision that they made and that first step in the way that they choose to raise their family now is going to have great purpose for their children and their children's children, like hopefully.
Right.
But if that person just chooses to be like a stay-at-home mom and do all the child rearing stuff, there's going to be a lot of days, I'm sure, where they say like, all I'm doing is some laundry. And so that's the thing I feel like that's a little bit hard to swallow when we say purpose. It feels like it's supposed to be this big thing that's very intentional, that you've heard from God and you've spent time in prayer. And sometimes I think your purpose is just where you happen to be plopped.
Right.
It's just you were put right here in this position at this given moment in time. And as long as you're choosing to, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind through everything, then he's going to find your purpose in whatever situation that you've kind of been plopped into.
Right. And I would say too, I'd add to that a lot of times some of the biggest things you can do that'll make a difference in the world is get behind somebody else's purpose that you believe in. And it's not about blazing the trail as much as it's like the guys who are blazing the trail need somebody with them. And there are people who are radically gifted at making money. There are people who are drawn to, hey, I just want to like, and we might even look down on people like this, even though we probably shouldn't, but you might have the person who just like, I just want to pray for 8 hours a day. Okay. If you can figure out how to pull that off, pray for me for 8 hours a day. Like, so, but getting behind something that God's doing, every work that God is doing is never the one person that you see. It's always a lot of people behind him. Like I think, is it John Maxwell? He's the leadership guy.
Yeah.
One of his rules to success is you will never be successful until there are people around you who want you to be successful.
Yeah. I started when it started the church, I would think we were a fairly decent trailblazer. There's lots of people who are really good trailblazers. Trailblazers are generally not great with maintaining relationships and making sure they check up on everybody. Right. And certainly, I think I'm learning a little bit how to do that better, but that was never really my strong point. You need all kinds of people to do it. So I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, you will push back on me, I'm sure. But it feels like for the most part, Jesus' job when he was on earth is to love the people who are in front of him. That was like his number one purpose. Just love the people as I'm walking through the road. Wham, here's a blind guy. Wham, there's somebody touched my robe. All that. Love the person who is. There isn't a single human who in their life can't do that.
Right.
Because God will put other lawyers in front of you, or other judges in front of you, or other custodians in front of you. There will always be people to pour into, family members,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so make sure you're pouring your life into something that matters. And I'd always say that the top of that list is people, because people matter more than things and stuff.
Right.
Secondly, Leslie, when God calls you to do something, do it. Don't wait. Don't complain about it. I wonder if there are people out there because God's not calling me to do anything. Well, He called you once, you did nothing. Maybe He's asking you to do that thing first, and then I'll give you something else.
Right. Yeah. I wonder. I kind of wonder with people. I always feel like there's always some kind of. Not always, but often I feel like there's something like God's lead me to do that I don't do. I feel like I slow play a lot. Like I'm like, I'm not sure, which is funny because people might see me as impulsive sometimes. like I'm the one who like maybe is
that
quick
would
to
move
make.
to San Diego and be homeless.
Yeah. But I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm that way. I feel like that was sitting on me for years.
Yeah, right.
Before you make the decision. And so it's like, I think we all are going to deal with that. Even Moses dealt with that of like, go do it. And you're just like, but maybe there's a better time, maybe whatever. And so, but yeah, I mean, I feel like the quicker we learn to respond, the better it's going to be. Better meaning whatever better means, but like it might get hard, it might get real fast. But yeah, I think we need to respond.
Yeah, I think it's good, and I think it's good to like I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to Ken Blanchard yesterday on the golf course, and I had wisdom for Ken.
Okay.
Ken wrote the 1 Minute Manager. He's 65 million sales for all of his. I mean, he's just amazing. But he had something he needed to learn from me, I'm sure.
So he's probably going to put you in a quote
Probably.
in the book he writes next week.
Because I think that there's the idea of if you want to do something, make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
And I say if you want to do something, do it crappy till you get it right. Right?
Okay.
Because there's sometimes, like as a parent, you go, oh man, yesterday was no good. No bueno. Did not make advances with my children. So you get up, you try again.
Right.
I'm just going to keep trying it again.
Yeah.
Just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more, and then here's how we're going to end, okay?
Okay.
We're going to talk about this one, and then Leslie is going to tell us all the things she's learned about decision making to close us out. So we'll see.
All that she's learned today in
Today,
this podcast.
just in the during this podcast.
So she's going to recap.
Solely focused on one human and
right.
what she's learned. Okay.
All right.
Lastly, don't be surprised when life is difficult. Don't try to live up to everybody's Facebook page. Don't try to look like an Instagram post.
Okay.
Because we get all bound up by thinking, "Well, if life is hard, I must have made a terrible decision." And sometimes that's true, but other times it's just life.
Right. Yeah, there's a bit of a balance, right? I mean, there's a little bit of like, I'm gonna push back. Some people do have a better life than you. Like that's some of so it's both sides, right? I mean, it's like there's a healthy, but healthy isn't perfection.
Right.
Because there are some people who I think, check out.
Well,
they look at their own
I
issues
just
and
smoke a lot of weed all the time, and I don't do anything in my life.
I don't know why my kids aren't doing well.
But God, Jesus said, in this world you'll have trouble. So that's, I guess, thanks, Jesus.
But I mean, because the reason why I would bring that up is because at the same time, like I guess going all the way back to where we started is work on yourself. Because oftentimes you might find that the problems within your life are actually caused by you. You just didn't know what the thing was that caused it.
Right.
And so, I feel like we need to take ownership of that, but not to a way that it's debilitating to us, that we stop moving forward and stop progressing. Because I think that no matter how good we get at it, you can read a lot of parenting books or whatever your thing is that you're doing, you can still get better. And there's still something that,
And you can read all the parenting books and you can still screw up.
you can. I don't read the.
Or
parenting
you could be a
books,
horrible parent and your kids turn out amazing, and you could be an amazing parent and your kids mess up.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's like really unfortunate.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. And if we make life, and here's something that Ken Blanchard told me. It's NATO, not attached to outcomes. We show up, we put God in our lives, but we're not all attached to the outcomes because he's still writing the story. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Leslie, it's your turn. Tell us all the things that you've learned about decision making
Well,
from our vast
Thanks.
wisdom.
I still don't have my problem solved, unfortunately. There was no thunder or lightning while we were sitting in here to give me my clear answer. I do know about myself, which I feel like a good thing always, kind of like you were talking about, Jonathan. It's always so good to know, to like be studying yourself, right? To know like, what things do I need to work on? What am I really good at that I can give to somebody else? And I know in general, decisions are hard for me. I said this before we started the podcast outside of this, but I just was woven by God to be like a team, like to be a part of a team. I don't really like to do stuff by myself. I would never be a trailblazer because I would want 75 people on either side of me.
All in agreement.
All in the same, yeah. So I know that decisions feel hard for me because I want to get a consensus from the people around me that I really trust and seek counsel from, and I care about their wisdom and their input. So that's something I'm just gonna always struggle with. And of course, mentally, you're like, oh, great. Well, if all of my life is really about Jesus, then if he could just do that for me, then that would make everything a lot easier. But I think sometimes things, like I was thinking about when you could sometimes just take a first step and you even think it's going to go in a different direction, it doesn't mean that your course stays straight all the time, but it does mean that you're getting these little, like a bowling ball going down an alley with bumpers on the side of it. You might like get a little nudge back into this direction or in that direction. And hopefully, as long as you're constantly going back and saying like, Jesus, what do you have for me now? Like, what is it now that you want? I think I get stuck in the fact of, if I make a decision, then this is going to be like it. This is the biggest decision and this is going to be it forever. And so sometimes I get into that freeze mode because I'm like, well, then you should tell me what to do, and that's not always going to be the case. I think sometimes we're going to be like, I think this is the best decision, so I'm going to go for it. And if it's not, then I just have to trust that God's going to nudge me back back on the path that he wants for me.
You are a tremendous parent. We've heard about your parenting prowess on this.
Thank you.
You would 100% allow your children to make mistakes, and you would draw them back in if they did. This is where we kind of get a little confused, right? Because we think, well, yeah, but God, like if I make a bad decision with God, he's gonna slap my hand with a ruler. God, he's way better. He's a much better parent than Leslie Hyatt.
So true.
And he's not waiting for you to make a mistake so that he can slap you around.
Yeah.
But he just can't wait to draw you back in and go, see what we learned?
That's good.
Yeah.
I probably learned something too. I don't know.
Yeah. You finally learned what the title of this
Yeah.
was, so that was good. Thank
I guarantee
you.
you're going to hit end and he's going to be like, what do we call this one again?
Yep. It's going to happen. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for these last 10 steps. If you'd like to join us for another journey, or if you know someone else who's on this walk, subscribe to our podcast at 10 Steps Further on iTunes, or simply search 10 Steps Further on your podcast app. And if you'd like to be part of the conversation with a question or a comment or a criticism or even a wisecrack, look us up on Facebook. We've created a Facebook group where you can be part of the conversation. We'll see you next time.
I've been golfing with Ken Blanchard, which is great. I love him and the guys or whatever.
Right. But you're tired of losing?
I'm awful. Like I started out, I was taking lessons, I was hitting pretty good, and the last couple of times have been terrible. And when you're bad,
Have you heard that golf's a mental game? Maybe that's impacting you.
oh, it's 100%. Like, so I practice in my backyard and I hit straight. And I get out there, I can't hit anything. And so it is a mental game, but I don't know. Like, well, who cares if you're any good at golf? But when you're bad at golf,
why would you want to play?
Why? And I know, and you're playing with people, and you
Better
don't
get-
do very well for a while. They can see it's kind of getting to you.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't it get to you? Because
Right.
who
Right.
wants to be bad?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, just enjoy the birds and the bees and the company. I like all of those things. I hate sucking at golf, and it gets in my head. How are you telling me to not let it get in my head when I'm not hitting any good
So funny.
shots?
It's really hard.
And then they all, everybody kind of treats you like a cancer patient.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
"Oh,
okay,
That's
Jack.
It's okay. You're all right.
You'll do better on the next
And I
hole.
finally just told him, I says, you guys, I'm not a cancer patient. Just, I'm okay. Like,
Just
I'm not,
say you
I'm
suck.
not hitting.
Yeah, you suck.
Yeah, very well.
That's
So,
funny. That's awesome.
um,
All right, we ready?
we are.
Some of that might have to go in the end, like you're whining about golf. Might have to go after the outro just because it's there.